debate on the key topics in the field of agri-food topic. And today we will have the sessions of EU Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy as the first session. As you all know, the Farm to Fork strategy is at the heart of the European Green Deal, aiming at make food systems fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly. And we will also talk about food culture requirements with the focus on contaminants. And then in the afternoon, we will discuss EU and Turkey rural development policy and strategies for sustainability and actions to support SMEs transition to a circular economy in the view of Turkish and European chambers. And then tomorrow we will discuss the new trends in the agri-food sector, from agroecology to food ethics, from family farms to women agribusiness to digitalization and agricultural technology. And then we will hear chambers and SMEs on the needs and opportunities of agri-food ecosystem. And now, without further delay, we will lend ear to the distinguished words of Director General Ms. Çağlayan Özcan for the opening remarks. Ms. Çağlayan, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Ms. Ersöz, Turkey-EU Business Dialogue Team Leader and Project Director. Distinguished participants, I would like to start by expressing my pleasure to address you on the margin of the AGRI-FOOD online forum. And thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts and what we are doing. Nowadays, climate change is at the center of the global agenda and has become a multidimensional issue covering not only environmental concerns, but also economy, growth, trade, agriculture, energy, and so on. Countries have increased their efforts to address the impacts of climate change, and they are seeking innovative solutions as well. One of the major actors in this process is, of course, the European Union. As the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, we are closely following the EU actions regarding transition to green economy and digital transformation. As the main public actor in the agriculture and food sector, we have a wide range of duties and responsibilities, like agricultural production from farm to fork, food safety issues, and irrigation as well. Esteemed participants, as all we know, in 2019, European Green Deal, which aims to make Europe as the first carbon neutral continent by 2050, was announced as the EU's new growth strategy. We are aware of the fact that in the following years, European Green Deal will have huge impact on the relations with the EU, our relations with the EU, especially on our agricultural trade. What I am saying, especially why I am saying that the especially agricultural trade, because we export more than 30% of total agriculture products to the EU member states. Within the scope of the Green Deal, two strategies concerning our sectors have been announced. I mean, within the responsibilities of our ministry. One is Farm to Fork strategy, which aims to establish a more environment-friendly, healthy, and sustainable food system. And the second one is biodiversity strategy. In today's forum, our interest is Farm to Fork strategy, and there will be several speeches which will provide more details regarding this. Therefore, rather than going into details, I would like to talk about what we are doing with respect to those issues. Overall, the country-wide coordination of the efforts concerning Green Deal is undertaken by our Ministry of Trade. As the ministry, we actively participate and contribute the ongoing works regarding our sectors. Specific for Farm to Fork strategy, we established a working group which gathers regularly to discuss the developments in the EU, evaluate their effects on our trade, and identify the steps to be taken accordingly. Within this working group, there are many experts from different departments and disciplines. We have another mission is to inform and prepare the sector. I mean, farmers, producers, exporters for the requirement of the strategy. As a matter of fact, the points introduced in the Farm to Fork strategy are not entirely new to European agriculture and food sector. For this reason, being a candidate country for a long time and following the EU policies and aligning our legislation to the EU acquis in the related fields is one of our major advantages. For instance, with regard to pesticides, we closely follow the relevant EU legislation and gradually harmonize our legislation. Having said that, I would like to express our willingness to cooperate with the EU concerning the development and dissemination of the alternative pest management techniques instead of chemical pesticides and how we support them. As for the reduction of chemical fertilizers, we have been carrying out projects for the production of the fertilizers from organic wastes and extensification of the use of organomineral fertilizers. I would like to underline that our legislation for organic farming is, to a large extent, in line with the EU legislation. And we provide support to farmers for expansion of the organic production areas. I must say that we attach a significant importance to the organization of food chain and sustainable food supply, which is one of the main pillars of the Farm to Fork strategy. As you are all aware, for more than a year, COVID-19 pandemic has had negative impact on all aspects of life. However, we experienced a relatively smooth course of spread due to the timely measures taken, such as close contact with the food industry, increasing our stock levels of retail sector, regulating transportation and living conditions of seasonal workers, and many others. On the other hand, we had transform our food system that work with the current trends. We are working hard to further improve our approaches in parallel with the digitalization. We have activated digital applications at each stage of the food supply chain, from seeds to fork. One of the major is Digital Agriculture Market, which was established last year. We call it DTAP shortly. It is a web-based digital platform for supply and demand change, providing sustainable supply and allows traceability from seed to fork. It allows also contract farming. This platform includes a wide range of members from small farmers to big players in the retail sector and provides to our farmers many opportunities and facilities to strengthen their marketing capabilities and effective financial instruments. If you are interested in DTAP, there will be a specific session tomorrow for the detailed information. Let me give you some figures regarding our agricultural potential. Turkey is one of the biggest agricultural producers in the world, ranked first in Europe, 10th in the world. An agriculture sector constitutes 6% of GDP, 18% of employment. Contrary to the popular belief, Turkey is net exporter of agricultural products. In 2019, Turkey had $5.3 billion foreign trade surplus in agricultural products. In 2020, we have seen a growth rate of 5% in agricultural sector. This means an increase in our agricultural production and exports despite the pandemic. Dear participants, I would like to touch upon an important issue that affects the agri-food sector and food security strongly. According to the growing population rate, the food production has to be increased 60% for feeding the future population till 2050. This might be possible by innovation and using technology, but the production capacity is limited and the resources are not endless. Therefore, another way to relieve the pressure on the food production is to reduce the food loss and waste remarkably. Because every year, around 1/3 of the food are lost or wasted. And food waste is not only the matter regarding preserving the natural resources, but also a matter of climate change, for it generates about 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. In the view of these facts, last year, in cooperation with United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, Save Your Food campaign and launched to fight against the food loss and waste and raising awareness among the consumers and retailers. Today, in limited time, I could tell only a part of the work we are doing. This means not that that's all. There are, of course, more steps to be taken. In this regards, we are awaiting the legal arrangements from the EU side foreseen under the action plan of the Farm to Fork strategy. I would like to emphasize that the process will be surely bring a substantial change and transformation in the sector. A transformation of kind would require a considerable amount of financial resources. As far as we know, the EU stipulates a total of 1 trillion euros until 2030 to achieve the objectives of the Green Deal. As the ministry, we would like to make the most of the financial resources available for the adaptation of the Green Deal objectives, like IPA funds and EU programs such as Horizon Europe and LIFE, in addition to our natural resources. We put so much effort in both capacity and project preparation for the implementation by providing trainings and channeling the project proposals into these areas. In this respect, I would like to point out we would appreciate the cooperation and support of the EU. Before concluding my remarks, I would like to reiterate my belief in Turkey's EU membership and my sincere wishes for the further improvement and strengthening of the cooperation between Turkey and the EU. I wish you all fruitful sessions for the rest of the forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Çağlayan, for your remarks. And now we turn the time over to our moderator, Nermin Kahraman, who is the Policy Officer for Agriculture and Food Safety at the delegation of the EU to Turkey. Nermin Hanım.
Thank you very much, Oya Hanım. Esteemed participants and speakers, in the days of the pandemic, I hope you are all healthy and safe. I wish to welcome you to the AGRI-FOOD Forum organized by the Turkey-EU Business Dialogue Project as part of their policy dialogue activities. And we are all pleased to have you all here with us today. By this opportunity, you are gathered today in order to have the opportunity for discussion or debate on several key topics in the agri-food field. As you have just been told by Oya Hanım, we will have 4 different sessions with interactive roundtables over these 2 days. And now our first session is dedicated to EU Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy. As you all know, we are struggling with climate change and environmental degradation as significant threats to the whole world. In Europe, the Green Deal is our plan to make EU economy sustainable by turning climate and environmental challenges into opportunities and making the transition inclusive for all. Several policy areas are covered in the Green Deal, from biodiversity to sustainable agriculture and sustainable industry, from clean energy to pollution and climate action. It also includes ways to ensure more sustainable food systems through Farm to Fork strategy, which is at the heart of the Green Deal. During this session, you will hear more about the European Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy from different perspectives. I will not take more of your time. We have very valuable speakers in this session who will enlighten you on these important topics. At the end of the session, we will have a Q&A part. You can ask your questions by using the Q&A tool in Zoom. Our first speaker today is Mr. Lukas Visek, who is a member of Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans' cabinet. As you may know, Executive Vice President Timmermans is leading the Commission's work on the European Green Deal, and Mr. Visek's portfolio mainly covers important aspects of the Green Deal, including Farm to Fork strategy and greening of the Common Agriculture Policy. Let us listen now, Mr. Visek, for more details on the European Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy. Mr. Visek, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. And please.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. And let me start with very good news. At 5:05 this morning of Brussels time, the Parliament, the Council, and the Commission have agreed on the climate law, which basically sets in climate neutrality for the EU by 2050, and this is going to be followed up by a package which is going to be called Fit for 55, which essentially shows how to implement the reduction of emissions, of GHG emissions, by 2030. So, you know, a good day to start, but also I want to draw your attention to the summit that is going to take place tomorrow, that has been called by President Biden, which is also going to see some changes in the climate policy and in the Green Deal context worldwide. Now, this is not why you have invited me to this meeting to tell you all of this. You have invited me to talk to you about Farm to Fork strategy, and that's what I will do. Farm to Fork strategy is one of the key elements of the Green Deal. It aims to make the entire food chain sustainable. And I want to underline that when I say the entire food chain, I'm not talking just about agriculture or about the retailers and the food companies, but I'm also talking about consumers. So it is not an agricultural policy. It is not a policy for consumers. It is a whole set of actions that aims to make the entire food chain sustainable. In these 10 minutes, I will try to break it down a little bit into the different parts of the food chain, and I would like to show you what opportunities, what business opportunities, this transition to sustainability actually constitutes. Now, let me start with why we need to make food chain more sustainable. Well, it is given by the fact that that the food systems are extremely demanding on the climate and on biodiversity. In the EU, the food systems, the food chain, is responsible for about 10% of greenhouse gas emissions, out of which about 3/4 are associated with animal husbandry. At the same time, about 70% of land is actually associated with animal husbandry. And that's not just, you know, a staggering figure in terms of the use of resources. It is also important for two other things. One is that the agricultural systems push over the boundaries of the planet, of biodiversity. We are at an incredible loss of biodiversity in the EU, but also all over the world. And the second reason is that the food system is not sustainable in terms of our health, in terms of our diets. And this is what the Farm to Fork strategy tries to fix. Now, I promised to talk to you about the different parts of the chain and what the Farm to Fork is trying to do there. So let me start with farmers and with agricultural production. There, as you have already heard, the Farm to Fork strategy puts forward several targets which are linked to the agricultural production. What we want to do in order to tackle the biodiversity loss is to reduce the use and the risk of chemical pesticides by 50%. This should help us to bring more biodiversity into farming, and it is the biodiversity on which farming is directly dependent. So that's why it is important. We also want to reduce the pollution from fertilizers by 50%, so that we reduce the pressure on water, but also on biodiversity. So this basically translates into a 20% reduction in the use of fertilizers. Farm to Fork strategy is also about health. So we want to tackle the huge problem, which also is a global phenomenon, and that is the lack of antimicrobial resistance. So we want to reduce the use of antibiotics by 50%. All that by 2030. And in order to support this transition and strive for more sustainable food production systems, we want to increase the share of organic agriculture from the current area of 8.5 in the EU to 25% by 2030. Now, targets is one thing. Getting there, of course, is another thing. What the EU has is obviously the Common Agricultural Policy, which is currently in the negotiations between the Council and the European Parliament. And there, in these proposals, the Commission put a new scheme, a new system, a new tool for farmers, which is called eco-schemes. These eco-schemes, depending on the result of the negotiations, can bring between 38 to 58 billion euros to farmers to support the transition and to support more sustainable farming practices. In terms of regulatory initiatives, we will, of course, revise the Sustainable Use of Pesticides Directive, where we will try to bring more biopesticides into to farmers. We'll have a specific regulation on that before the end of the year. In order to reduce the GHG emissions, we're going to come forward with a new initiative on feed additives so that they are easier for farmers. And again, eco-schemes can support the use of feed additives to reduce emissions coming from enteric enteric fermentation. One huge opportunity for farming that I want to talk to you about, and which is globally transferable, is carbon farming. This is a system which basically rewards farmers for more climate-friendly practices, and it allows them to generate extra income from those who are interested in investing in such schemes. So the Commission will address this in a communication before the end of this year, and in 2023 will come forward with a certification method. Now, all of this has to be, of course, underpinned by a strong focus on research, where the EU has a budget of around 9 billion dedicated to food research, and of course with focus on data and evidence. And this is why we're developing something that is called Farm Sustainability Data Network. Now, let me very quickly move to the middle part of the chain. So all the food companies and retailers, they have to, they are in a perfect position to influence how food is produced by farmers, and they also in a perfect position to nudge consumers to eat more sustainable and more healthy food. We are currently developing something that is called the EU Conduct for Responsible Business and Marketing Practices, which is being developed in a cooperation between the Commission and the food companies. And the idea, the objective, is to make a list of commitments from the participating companies, and the Commission will take these commitments to the United Nations Food System Summit in September, and will present this as the commitment of food companies in the EU, and will of course invite the rest of the world to race us in this, and perhaps take the same commitments or even more ambitious ones, because at the end in this race everyone wins. Finally, I would like to talk about the role of consumers, and let me just be very clear that with everything that we can support and improve on the production side, will only be a half measure if consumers are not taken on board, or if they don't take this value of sustainability on board. We clearly don't want people to tell people what to eat and what not to eat, but we want to make sure that they have the right information on what is sustainable and what is healthy. And this is why the Commission is going to come forward with a whole framework of new labeling rules, showing consumers what is healthy and what is sustainable. This is going to consist of several elements, on nutrition labeling, on sustainability labeling, etc., etc. My final point is perhaps on the global dimension, and there we of course are very much interested in cooperating with all third countries in making the food sustainable, because at the end of the day, food is a global commodity. It is the standards of sustainability need to be respected all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Visek, for your very comprehensive presentation. It seems that we have a lot of significant and challenging work ahead. I don't know if you are going to stay with us until the end of the session to the Q&A part, but in the meantime, we have received one question. Maybe you wish to reply right now. Andrea Canzano asks, what is the EU plan for imported goods and raw materials? Will they have to respect the same EU standards to be allowed to enter into the EU market?
Well, I think that Thank you for that question. I think that that has several dimensions here. One, and I guess we're going to hear about that a little bit later from Mr. Verstraete. One thing is the issue of the standards which apply to food safety. And those they always have to be respected, and there's nothing new on that front. But there is also another part of another group of standards, which would be the environmental standards. And there, of course, we are looking in line with the reviewed trade policy. We're looking into all possible solutions to make sure that the relevant environmental standards of the EU are respected on all the imported food. Whatever solution is going to be found, it, of course, has to be in line with the WTO. That much is clear. But I was very pleased to hear that the alignment in Turkey with the standards is progressing, and I think that is probably the best way to go forward.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further questions at the moment. Perhaps there may be more through the end of the session. Thanks a lot, Mr. Bisek, once more. And now our next speaker is Mr. Marcel van der Vliet, President of the European Liaison Committee for Agricultural and Agri-Food Trade, which is the umbrella organization representing at the European level associations and companies active in the agriculture sector and agri-food trading. Mr. van der Vliet, the floor is yours.
Good morning, dear participants, dear speakers and business partners. It's my pleasure to speak to you this morning live from the Netherlands. I'm a president of CELCA since March 2019. My name is Marcel van der Vliet. I work for the Dutch Vendry Group, which is a producer and trader of agri-food products and commodities. We are a veal producing company. So we're active both in the livestock and meat business, but to that end, we produce animal nutrition and dairy ingredients, and we also process a lot of dairy ingredients. And this brought me to this role. I'm doing this next to my job as a commodity trader and dairy trader mainly. We have links to many of the sectors that CELCA represents, and I'm doing quite a lot of business with Turkey as well. So that's it's very interesting to speak to you and share with you our thoughts about the way forward with the Farm to Fork strategy, and to underline the crucial role that agri-food trade plays along the chain. So I'd like to share with you my presentation this morning. I'll try to upload it. One moment. Here we go. Let me put it. Is it clearly visible? I hope so. So to explain you a bit about CELCA. CELCA is the umbrella trade association at the European level. We were established already many years ago when the European agricultural policy was developed, and CELCA has been the official speaking partner of the European institutions. And we group the interests of a large number of European associations, which cover most of the agri-food sectors. So our members are UCOLAG, the trade association of the dairy sector, COSERAL, which represents the grain and oilseeds and pulses traders, with a strong link to Turkey as well, being a big producer of grains. Then we have the ÖWEP, which is representing the egg products industry and trade sector. SACAR is a grouping of different traders, sugar traders, dried fruits and nuts, both importers and exporters, fruit and vegetables. We have the UECBV, which is representing the livestock and meat traders, with also membership from Turkey. SEV is representing the European wine producers and traders. Often there is also a link to producers with vineyards, and they export and market their own products. We have also some associated members, the French Federation of Agri-Food Traders. FETRATAP is representing the raw tobacco leaf traders, both from Europe and also from international sources. So there's a link to Turkey as well. And we have also the Craft Butchers Association. And most recently, also the Hop Traders Association has joined. So as you can see, it's covering a lot of agricultural sectors, and it's in total more than 35,000 trading companies, from small and medium-sized enterprises to very large multinational enterprises. So to tell you, Mr. Fischek was also referring to the middle of the chain, and I think we are part of that middle of the chain, and sometimes we're a bit overlooked. Because we are playing a crucial role between the farm and the fork, because we link the agri-produce, the commodity producing farmers and their cooperatives, which we link to the food and drink processing industry. We are often in a business-to-business environment, and we provide the services that go with imports and exports, and including stock management, taking care of the logistical process, the import and export procedures and formalities, but also the finance. Don't underestimate that. Farmers like to be paid every month or even weekly. And yeah, because it takes time to get goods from A to B, and especially international trade takes longer time. So the financial services and roles that the traders play are very important. In order to manage the quality and the food safety, we have a lot of services related to insurance, laboratories, quality control, and legal services. So it's really that linking pin between the farm and the fork. Well, speaking about the Turkey's EU agri-food business, I've checked the latest statistics. The 2020 report was produced not so long ago, published by the Commission. And well, I refer to the 2019 figures here in this presentation. You see that Turkey has been the number 10 export destination in 2019, and has been a very important source of agri-food products, number 8, number 9, it depends a little bit. We've seen a small shift, a small decrease of our European exports to Turkey in 2020, but it's still in the top 10 on both sides of the trade balance. So massive importance as a source, and yeah, you've mentioned that Turkey in total is a net exporter, but with the EU being so close to each other, we are quite balanced trading partners. So very important, we're closely integrated, and yeah, it's in our common interest to try and decrease the hurdles that are still in place in the agri-food sphere. So we are absolutely positive to develop that further. It's in this slide you can see the diversity of products from livestock, live animals, and new animals to reinforce the herds in Turkey, both for meat production, milk production, genetics related to that, to the wheat trade. We see cotton, flax and hemp. We have the cereal portfolio from wheat and rice, which is important. And then there's a huge rest category of products that we export to Turkey. And you see at the other end, on the right side of the slide, you can see the importance of tropical fruit and dried nuts and spices, the vegetables, fruits, and preparations. So you see also the diversity, you know, trade starts always with comparative advantage, and some regions are very good at producing a certain set of products, and they have an access, and then trade makes sure that this product is valorized across the markets, and finds the best outlet. So trade brings value to the whole chain in that respect. And then there's also the clear link to the farm to fork strategy and sustainability. So I'll try to tell you a bit more about Selka's work, and together with the Commission services, we are engaging also with our chain partners, the Farmers Association and the food and drink industry. And when the new Commission started and the farm to fork communication came out, we already gathered our preliminary views with our members, and we presented them in June 2020. And well, we say, in general, we welcome definitely the shift towards more sustainability. We are conscient of our role in the middle of the chain to help increase the sustainability of the chain, and we take our responsibility in that respect. We say the shift should accompany all the actors in the food chain. And one moment, I'll make myself so I can read it better now. There's no one size fits all in our view. We know very well that there's a diverse set of interests in the different sectors that we represent. And yeah, I think this also counts for the whole strategy. The one size fits all has always proven not to work. So we prefer that the process to take the different players along the chain, to take them on board in a gradual and progressive process, so that nobody shall be left behind. Because we definitely, we as traders are used to work with the farmers and the cooperatives. They are our suppliers, and we need to also balance their interests with the interests of our clients, which are often the food and drink industry players, processors, but also distributors. So a trader always looks to the left along the chain and to the right, and he needs to balance the interests of supplier and customer. So that's why we think a gradual process is key. The COVID-19 situation has impacted the food chain. We've faced exciting times, mainly due to border controls. People had to be brought back to their home country. We saw quite some stress at certain moments at the borders, but with common action, I think also the European Commission has played a key role there. We created the policy of the green lanes, so the agri-food business could continue flowing and crossing borders, and essential workers were still given the permission to do their work. So I think all in all, the resilience of the chain was proven. We've also seen in the 2020 statistics very strong performance on both the export side and import side. So that shows that trade is essential to keep everybody fed and keep the shelves filled. Then when you think about sustainability, as Mr. Fisek was also rightfully underlining, the role of the consumer, the policy to help the consumer move towards sustainable choices, healthy choices, etc., that we support. Often we've seen, of course, that on the one hand, we say we are in favor of more sustainable, healthy choices, but there's also the reality when the consumer is spending his money. What is he actually choosing and putting in his shopping chart? So we have to be realistic in that respect. That's why we again plead for a gradual approach. Give us time to adapt and take everybody on board. If you think of the role of the trade in terms of promoting sustainability, then yeah, we all work hard to prevent the food waste. What is often misunderstood or not too much known is that trade helps to minimize waste, because agri-food commodities are processed and are often brought to value in different forms. And the byproducts and the co-products are sometimes not in favor of the local consumer or in the region, but the trade helps to find customers for those products far away. And that way, nothing goes to waste. Products are brought to value. And in that sense, we absolutely play our role to increase the sustainability of the chain. Food security, in our eyes, is a combination of local, regional, and international trade. There's been a lot of noise around shortening the supply chain and to focus on shorter supply chains in general. We think it's a good thing, but we also think we also have a firm incentive to keep the supply chain as short as possible. There is a financial incentive, and also logistically, we do our best day to day to optimize the logistical chain. There's a clear financial incentive to do so. So if you talk about sustainability, we think it's key to keep those 3 P's, people, planet, and profit, together and look to make progress in an integral way. We have a few concerns that with mandatory origin labeling on food ingredients, there are some threats for the optimal functioning of the single market. It's key that consumers should know what they buy, where it's from. That's great and perfect. Every country has great products, and we have a clear system of geographical indications which help to add value and market the local character of a product and its origin. But at the same time, we should maintain the optimal functioning of the single market. It cannot lead to food nationalism in that sense, because we have defined clear quality standards across the EU. So that is something to uphold together. In terms of trading agreements with our free trade agreements with our trading partners, we think indeed the inclusion of a sustainable food chapter, that can be a way to increase the cooperation. As equal trading partners, we sit down and talk together, and we try to increase the standards together in the at the right speed, so everybody stays on board once more. So absolutely a good thing to explore and to engage, and we are ready to do so. The role of international standards in this respect is also very important. We prefer to also work on not only bilateral way, but also through the multilateral way, through the UN organizations that are created for that. So both on animal welfare, product standards, Codex Alimentarius, that's the way to go. Let's make sure that we increase the total level playing field. Yeah, no unilateral action in that respect. That is our call. Then our concerns in relation to the farm to fork, there are definitely a few concerns. We have always pled for an integral impact assessment, not only judge the individual actions that are presented in the strategy, but let's also make an analysis of the total impact of all these actions together, because as you mentioned, we have a growing population, world population to feed, and we make a living. There's quite a lot of people who make a living along the food and agri chain. So if we reduce by accident our productivity or lose our competitiveness in that respect, we also will have less output and less product to sell, to trade, and to feed ourselves and our customers abroad. So let's make sure we do it in a clever way, based on innovation, supporting with reducing footprint, produce more and better food. So that's our biggest concern, to keep an eye on that. More organic product is also absolutely welcome. We see a bigger demand for organic product, but gradually, and it's not affordable yet for everybody. So also realism in that respect is necessary. Well, we would like to, of course, to keep the leading role in agri-food trade. The EU has shown a massive performance there, and Turkey at the other end of the equation as well. So let's move forward together, be ambitious, and so we can recover together from the COVID pandemic. We've seen very positive contribution, so let's maintain that and defend that good work that our traders do. Last few words on the promotion policy. The EU has always had a very active and successful agri-food promotion policy. It has helped to deliver more competitiveness for our sector, and we would like to keep it that way and make sustainability, it's the new buzzword. Let's make this more concrete, explain this to our trading partners, how the products, and we say every product that the EU exports is a proof of the sustainability. It represents the sustainability that is behind. So by trading, you exchange, every choice that a consumer makes for EU product is a sign that they support the package that is in that product. It represents the sustainability. The promotion policy in that respect should include all agri-food products. And let's make that shift towards more sustainability across the board, not only for organic product, but also for the whole range. We think that standards, it's called standards, but the standards that we have are already of such a high level that it's worthwhile to keep promoting that as well. Promotion policies should be aligned with the market realities and with realistic growth prospects. So those are my concluding remarks. We are ready to engage further with our Turkish business partners, with the officials, and let's continue the dialogue, keep trading, keep exchanging. It helps to liaise together, create the ties, which are more than necessary in these challenging times. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very open to your questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. van der Vliet, many thanks for this interesting and very informative presentation from agri-food trade point of view. Please stay online with us until the end of the session for Q&A. For the moment, we have received a couple of questions, but we have two more speakers. Better to wait until the 8th. Until the end. Now it is time for our third speaker in this session, who is Mr. Çorekoğlu, the Strategic Relationship Manager at the European Institute of Innovation and Technology Food. EIT is an EU body created by the European Union in 2008 to strengthen Europe's ability on innovation. And it's part of Horizon 2020, which is the EU framework program for research and innovation. And AGRI-FOOD is Europe's leading food innovation initiative, working to make the food system more sustainable, healthy, and trusted. We are excited to listen to your presentation, Mr. Çorekoğlu, as innovation has a significant role in the Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy. The floor is yours. You have maximum 15 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Karaman, and thanks to Oya and the previous panelists as well for their speeches and also for inviting me to this important event. So let me just quickly share my screen. I suppose you can all see my presentation now. AGRI-FOOD, I think, yeah, thanks for the introduction. I think it was a very good introduction because we are really looking to build the future of our food. And as the previous speakers and also Lucas has emphasized, we're trying to do this by bringing everyone together and moving together. So from the outset, I can say that an invitation to everyone, also to our Turkish partners, let's collaborate. We have no time to lose. We have to work together and we have to create the future together. So this is really from the very beginning an invitation to all of you. Okay, it has been briefly mentioned indeed, EIT, so the European Institute of Innovation Technology, is an EU body created in 2008. And after this creation of an independent EU body, it started creating what we call knowledge innovation communities. And each of these knowledge innovation communities, or as KICs we call them, are created to tackle a specific challenge of Europe. So we started with climate change, thus we have Climate KIC, and I believe a colleague of ours will speak tomorrow as well. When there was the rare earth minerals crisis, we created raw materials. When there was the energy crisis with our neighboring countries, energy has been created to tackle the challenges there. And AGRI-FOOD was indeed also created with the spirit to tackle the challenges of the food system that has been identified at the occasion of World Expo in Milan in 2015, but also taking into account the food price crisis that we had in the last decade. In 2019, 2 new KICs have joined our family of KICs, of EIT bodies, which are manufacturing and urban mobility, to tackle the individual challenges in those areas. So previous speakers have mentioned the challenge that we have in the food system, so I'm not going to go through all of them, not at all, but just want to emphasize that our food system needs to tackle its economic challenges in terms of entrepreneurship, competitiveness, challenges on environment, challenges on health, but also challenges on the societal well-being. And I will hope to address all these challenges through individual actions that we have been undertaking at EIT-Food. So as an institutionalized partnership of the European Union, of course, our role is to advance innovation. And by innovation, we do not only talk about technological innovation, but also talk about social innovation, managerial innovation, institutional innovation as such, and policy innovation as well. And our role is to support the European Union, the European Commission, and its member states in implementing and developing tools and solutions to accelerate the transformation of the food system. So our mandate is to transform the food system to make it more safe, sustainable, and healthy. And of course, with the farm to fork strategy, of course, we also have the elements of trust, fairness, and you might have noticed already that I'm not talking about food supply chains, I'm talking about food systems, because it goes beyond simple value chains and supply chains. We are really trying to advance this thinking and advance this transformation for the system to make it more trusted, fair, from farm to fork. And we work with all actors across the supply chain, across the food system to make this happen. So, of course, farm to fork has been elaborated extensively by Lucas and by the previous presenters as well. But we also have to take into account that SDGs, so UN Sustainable Development Goals, we have targets. We have 17 targets at that we need to reach by 2030. And considering now that we're in 2021, considering that the contracts of the following years have already been concluded, we actually have less than 7 years now, all of us together, to reach these targets. And I would like to take everyone back to 2015 when the SDGs have been identified. They were identified with the mindset, with the philosophy that everyone, every actor, every country, every local actor should move together and have things to do, have targets to reach. And we have to do this by leaving no one behind. So I would like to bring this idea again back to the table that indeed, if we are going to reach the SDGs, we have to move all of us together. We have to leave no one behind. And we have to have a systemic approach if we are to tackle these challenges and reach these goals. And by systemic, I mean, it's not only about technology, but we also have to tackle societal challenges, social innovation, as such. So 4 years after our creation, now AGRI-FOOD is the world's largest food innovation ecosystem that brings together more than 220 partners covering large industry, but as well as SMEs, research centers, universities, civil society, consumer organizations, etc. And our door is open to new partners, especially from Turkey, because at the moment we have very limited participation of Turkish actors in our activities, and Turkey as an associated country can also, of course, join our activities. Our Turkish companies, Turkish universities can join us to make this transformation happen together and create, of course, and share benefits for everyone. So again, another invitation to all of you. We are open, we are an open innovation ecosystem, happy to collaborate with you for that mission. Our approach to transforming the food system is really can be summarized perhaps in 6 strategic objectives. So this is, as Lucas has mentioned, we have to improve the trust in the food system. So we have to include consumers, citizens, and everyone, and build the trust together so that we can move forward. Without trust, no matter whatever technology, no matter whatever solution you will put out there, there will not be a buy-in, there will not be an uptake of that solution. So trust is important. Then, of course, obviously, we have to create healthier food. We know that health impacts of our food system, so we have to correct that. We have to transition to a digitalized, connected food system. So no more fragmented supply chains, but all connected, harnessing the development, harnessing the benefits of technological developments there. Sustainability, no need to mention that. Then education, capacity building, upskilling, and closing the skills gap, very critical if we want to reach a more sustainable and more healthy food system. And we should not overlook the importance of education in this respect, not only about the food professionals, but also citizens, consumers, professionals, managers, leaders in multinational companies. And so we all need to improve our understanding and skills. And the last bit, of course, is that we need to work on making the food system more competitive. We have to add new blood, new dynamism, startups, young entrepreneurs to the food system, so that we have this dynamism, the competitiveness, and the new solutions to reach our goals. So at AGRI-FOOD, thanks to the European Commission and the European Union, we invest in 4 different types of interventions. So these are education, innovation, technological innovation at that, entrepreneurship, and public engagement. All necessary, all complementary to each other, because without skills, education, we cannot really talk about forward-looking, future-looking oriented innovation. And without entrepreneurship, we cannot really talk about competitiveness. Of course, we need new entrepreneurs. And of course, without citizens, we cannot do anything. So I will try to give examples now as what we do at AGRI-FOOD. So on the screen, you see a whole range of education activities that we do. So we have we developed our own master's program on food systems. Every summer, we have our summer school across Europe. We have education programs that really specifically tackle industrial challenges. We have workshops for SMEs, but we also have what we call, you see on the screen on the right and most column, MOOCs. So these are massive open online courses. These are free of charge courses that people, professionals, citizens can follow at their own speed without any charge and any price at that. These are all accessible, and on the screen you see some examples of these kind of MOOCs that we develop with our partners, industry, academia, research, civil society, to improve that understanding, to improve that, to close that skills gap that we have, so that we move all together. So again, if you're interested, please take a look. Please feel free to register. Please disseminate. It's all free of charge. It's all for the common good and common benefit. Then if I'm to moving to innovation, so our technological innovation area, of course, we need to take into account COVID pandemic, and indeed, we need to build back better. So what we are doing is really, we are now building our future activities, taking into account all these insights, scientific, but as well as policy dimensions, farm to fork strategy, and etc. And we really built, we have built 6 technological focus areas to drive this innovation forward, technological innovation forward. So alternative proteins, sustainable agriculture, targeted nutrition, sustainable aquaculture, digital traceability, and circularity. And of course, consumer centricity is absolutely fundamental to all that we do. All innovation activities need to have a citizen consumer component. We would like to co-design, co-develop innovation processes with citizens, with consumers. And of course, digitalization is also a cross-cutting area for us. And what we do every year, we publish calls in these different focus areas, and we accelerate the deployment of these technological solutions to the market. So we not do research, we invest in research that can be taken to the market. As an example from our solutions that have been developed in the past years, and we know that the European Commission will come forward actually with their regulation and legislation on a proposal for sustainable food labeling, and indeed building on the years of work that different various stakeholders in Europe have put in on the product environmental footprint, on sustainable consumption and production roundtables, following the European Commission methodology. We have actually developed what we call an AGRI-FOOD Enviro scores. And this Enviro score can be used in conjunction to all other nutritional labeling out there. The label is complete. At the moment, we are discussing with large industry as well as data centers to harmonize the data, to build our data log, so that the food products that you will see on at the retail will have dynamic environmental information on them. So when you go to the supermarket, if you compare minced meat, A, B, you will exactly be able to see which meat, which package contains the least emitting, better performing, environmentally, of course, meat. And you can make a choice as a consumer based on that. So this will, of course, create incentives, but also create benchmarks. This is not only a label, of course, we have also developed a B2B, so business to business calculator as well, so that the journey of the food can be traced, and indeed calculations can be done, again, as I said, dynamically for food products. The other intervention area that we have is in entrepreneurship. Every year we support around 150 entrepreneurs, startups, by making infrastructure labs accessible to them, providing them market access and a whole range of things. And in the next slide I will show, but startups that benefit from AGRI-FOOD programs, support programs, development programs, last year alone have been able to raise 130 million euros. And that was in a year, of course, of economic uncertainty, downturn, this and that. But all I can say is that this is the leading food entrepreneurship program in Europe for food entrepreneurs. And you will see on the screen that we support entrepreneurs at every step of their journey, whether they're early entrepreneurs, scale-ups. We support them with our seedbed program, our accelerator. Last week, we have launched our venture fund, investment fund called AGRI-FOOD Sparks. You can read more about that online. We have our club of elite and most promising startups called AGRI-FOOD Rising Food Start. These are like 90 really leading startups across the world. We provide them business services and support, and every year we also organize a venture summit to introduce these startups, these SMEs, to potential investors. Now, our fourth area that we work on is public engagement. And I've mentioned that trust is fundamental to all that we do, and consumer centricity is fundamental. And for us to be, of course, also talk about trust, we also have to be able to measure trust. So what are the underlying factors, constituents, elements of that? And since 2018, we are carrying out a trust analysis survey, which we called AGRI-FOOD Trust Tracker. And we do this in all the countries that you see there with more than 18,000 people. We are asking many things with this survey, and we are really trying to understand what affects trust and what do consumers expect from individual food actors? What do they expect from retailers? What do they expect from farmers as such? And on the screen, I just put a snapshot of a finding from our trust report on food integrity and how do consumers think about the food integrity in their countries. Turkey is one of those countries that we carry out the trust tracker. And again, on the basis of these findings, we develop innovation programs, other type of interventions, either social innovation or managerial as such, to improve the trust. I mentioned innovation, entrepreneurship, this and that, of course, but of course, EIT Food's activities just go beyond just making the food system more healthy and more sustainable and more trusted, but also, we also tackle some societal challenges. And one of them is, of course, empowering women in agri-food. Unfortunately, today, women's participation and involvement in the agri-food sector system is very, very limited. And as for that purpose, we developed our EVA program, where we support, we provide tailored support to female entrepreneurs and agri-food professionals in European countries. Turkey is part of that. I can only encourage everyone in this call to take a look at it, share with their networks, and really help us empower women in the food system. Our impact, I think I mentioned this a lot, so I will not go further into this, but we are serious in supporting the European Commission. As an institutional body, of course, that's our duty. We have a mandate to transform the food system, and that's only possible if it takes systemic action. We have to work on trust, we have to make the food more healthy, we have to make the food sustainable, and we have to transition to circular food economy. Those are very, very critical things for us. And in concluding, Turkey, as I said, as an associate country, is part of our activities. However, we only have one partner, and that's actually a network partner. So I wholeheartedly invite Turkish businesses, universities, research centers, civil society to join EIT Food, be part of our transformational journey, and go beyond what you see on the screen. So this is very, very minor of what we can achieve if we work together. Again, I just put some names out there as well. We already work with some very promising, game-changing startups from Turkey, and they've also been achieving great success. All this to say, once to repeat myself, let's work together. We don't have much time until 2030, only 8 harvests left, or 7 years left. We have to come together, we have to work together. No individual actor can do this alone. We cannot transform the food system if only innovators work. No, we all have to come together, work together, pool resources if needed, and drive this change together if we want to leave no one behind. So thank you for listening. You can always reach out to me and we can discuss how we can work together going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Çorekoğlu, for your clear and very concise presentation. Of course, policy development and industry cannot be separated from research and innovation, which is also very substantial for agri-food sector. And you are doing at EIT Food a great job. Our participants may be interested to hear more from you through the questions. For the moment, we only received one question to you, if you could share the links, websites of the courses available. And that's it. And let's see if at the end we will have more questions. And now we should move towards the food quality part, with special attention to contaminants. Of course, the topic is quite significant, particularly for the Turkish food producers, importers, and exporters. And our last speaker for this session is Mr. Franz Verstraete, the Deputy Head of Unit responsible for official control for contaminants at the DG Health and Food Safety of the European Commission. Dear Franz, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So thank you for the introduction. So my presentation will be a bit different than the presentations you have heard, which were indeed on regards to the Green Deal and the sustainable food systems. I go back indeed to what we call the food safety requirements. And in my presentation, I will focus on contaminants. I know that there are also a lot of issues with pesticide residues, food additives, and so on. But of course, in the 10-12 minutes I cannot deal with all the food safety requirements we have in the EU, because then I would need a whole day to discuss. So important is to say, well, whatever as regards regulatory requirements we have as regards the presence of contaminants in food and in feed, there are these, based upon these general principles, and they have to provide a high level of human health and animal health protection. Of course, they are also, when we are setting uniform standards at EU, it's indeed to also ensure the free movement within the EU. It's also to ensure legal certainty for our partner countries and third countries, so that they know to what levels they have to comply with to have no problems at import. Of course, when there are international standards discussed in Codex, we are indeed taking them into account in our discussions. We are not always, when we diverge from these standards, then we have to be able to justify why we think that the international standard is not providing the high level of human health protection we are pursuing with our EU legislation. There is the general principle that all feed and food on the EU market has to be safe. And particularly then for contaminants is then also that we are also looking what is achievable by good practices. And I will come back on that later on in my presentation. So in order to achieve this high level of human health and animal health protection, and so the EU legislation, feed and food legislation, has to be based upon indeed risk analysis, which is indeed risk assessment, which has to be done by an independent body and which has been done by the European Food Safety Authority. We have, of course, the risk management. What are the measures to be taken to ensure this high level of human health protection? And of course, we have to also be able to communicate on the risks related to indeed the presence of a certain contaminant or another substance in food. So the risk management, and that follows the risk assessment and has to take into account the outcome of the risk assessment, but also the other factors legitimate to the matter. So, as I said, this is the basis, and then within the risk assessment, we have to see what are the foods, the food groups which are significantly contributing to our exposure, to the human exposure. But of course, we are also looking into indeed some food groups where we can see that there is regularly a high level of a certain contaminant, and that is particularly the cases for indeed spices, where we can see, which from an exposure point of view are not necessarily always that relevant, but where we can see that sometimes very high levels of certain contaminants can be found. And so that's also a reason to regulate it, to really make sure that also good practices are in these cases applied. And then, of course, once we have selected the food groups which we think has to be regulated, we are then indeed checking the occurrence data to determine, okay, what is reasonably achievable. The risk management measures, of course, there can be a variety of measures. Of course, when we are talking about contaminants, is indeed prevention is of major importance. And because indeed a regulatory level does not make disappear the contaminant from the food, it are the application of good agriculture manufacturing practices. And so we have different management tools. We have, of course, the setting of maximum levels, but also we can indeed also set action levels, a bit the softer form of maximum levels, but also encourage, and that's important, encourage indeed the application of good agriculture practices, good manufacturing practices, prevention measures. When we are talking about contaminants, we are defining the measures to be taken on a case-by-case basis, and that can be a combination of different measures into one strategy. It can be a selection of one measure. When we are indeed setting maximum levels, of course, we cannot fully control the presence of it because indeed they are present in the environment, they are related to the climate sometimes. So we have to set them at a level as low as reasonable achievable. That's also in line with indeed the general with worldwide standards as regards setting of maximum levels for contaminants, that we look into what is achievable by applying good practices. And indeed, for the enforcement, we also indeed define sampling procedures and also requirements to which the methods of analysis have to comply with. And so these maximum levels ensure indeed a high level of human health protection, but also are to be seen as complementary and even strengthening indeed the importance of indeed applying prevention measures, application of good practices. As I said, we, besides taking into account the results of the risk assessment, we have also to look into what we call the other legitimate factors. Of course, any measure we introduce has a certain cost, and so we have to balance indeed if the costs are indeed not prohibitive, and indeed that they, of course, any measure will have a certain cost level, but of course sometimes it's very much appropriate to do it in order for the protection of public health. So there is indeed this issue that we certainly have that we consider when setting regulatory levels. As I already mentioned, we have also to see the feasibility, the achievability by applying good practices. And in that case, we have also to see indeed other factors in, because we know climate change has also an influence on the occurrence of certain contaminants. So we have to make, which cannot be controlled by the individual farmer. And so there is our issues that we have also to take into account. So make sure that by setting a level, a certain food becomes no longer be possible to produce. And of course, we have also to look what are the prevention measures. And for instance, indeed, we know that in certain cases, the application of pesticides is indeed preventing the occurrence of certain mycotoxins. So we will have also to see what other policy objectives, also those ones mentioned under the Green Deal, indeed affect the availability of certain mitigation tools to reduce the presence of contaminants in our food chain. But of course, besides looking purely at the contaminants, we have also to look into the benefits of a food. For instance, indeed, when we are looking at cereals, we know, for instance, that a lot of contaminants, as well metals, but also processing contaminants like acrylamide, as well also mycotoxins are mainly present in the outer parts of the cereal grain. So indeed in the bran. And so where indeed you know that, for instance, high fiber breakfast cereals, which contains a high level of bran, might contain higher levels of contaminants than indeed a non-high fiber breakfast cereal. So, but on the other hand, a high fiber breakfast cereal has indeed clear dietary benefits and so health benefits, so that we have to also consider that when setting maximum levels. And of course, as I already pointed out, any maximum level has to be enforceable. So it is we have to make sure that there are methods of analysis which can be applied or used in a routine laboratory for indeed controlling compliance. Now, indeed, coming to some concrete issues as regards what is currently ongoing in the EU as regards setting of maximum levels. I refer to recent developments. We have indeed maximum levels for perchlorate set in the regulation 2020-685 in May of last year. We have the maximum levels for 3-MCPD esters and glycidyl esters, which were established in September last year. And finally, also, and I will come back on this, on pyrrolidine alkaloids in certain foods, including culinary herbs and also cumin spices last December. We are also, and that is also of relevance for indeed the export from Turkey to the EU. Indeed, we are currently discussing the setting and the review of maximum levels for ochratoxin A. We are, for instance, discussing the possibility of setting a maximum level for ochratoxin A in dried figs, and also to also review the existing maximum level for dried vine fruit. We are also already quite well advanced in setting maximum levels for ergot alkaloids and tropane alkaloids. Also hydrocyanic acid, which are relevant for apricot kernels and also almonds, and also maximum levels for acrylamide are under consideration. But that's of course not exhaustive. It's just a number of examples. What are now the issues identified in 2020-21 in indeed the trade between Turkey and EU as regards the presence of contaminants in food identified? And there I take the RAS notifications from indeed last year and indeed the first months of this year. And you can see that indeed the aflatoxins is indeed the main issue, which indeed aflatoxins in figs is indeed 76 notifications, but also in pistachios, hazelnuts, and watermelon seeds. So these were the main ones. We can also see ochratoxin A in figs, 12. You could indeed question why is there already RAS notifications while you just said that the level are still under discussion. Well, indeed, as I already pointed out, one of the basic principles in EU legislation is that all food that placed on the market has to be safe. In the absence of specific maximum levels, a member state can, on the basis of an ad hoc risk assessment, define that a food with that level of a contaminant is not safe and take it from the market. Of course, that does not provide fully legal certainty, because one member state might indeed consider a level already a risk for human health other than another member state. So therefore, besides indeed ensuring a high level of human health protection, the setting of a maximum level indeed provides also legal certainty towards indeed exporters to the EU. We have also indeed, and that's the same for pinosine alkaloids, where the maximum levels has been established, but which are not yet fully into application. But in case of indeed a very high level, and we can see very in the RAS notification, very high levels of pinosine alkaloids are found in, for instance, cumin, also oregano from Turkey, and also in one case in peppermint, there was also high level. And then you can see there were also some other findings, glycerol esters in vegetable oil or ghee from Turkey. And also you can see there was also one finding of propane alkaloids in peppermint. So besides the regulatory levels, we have also, when we find a regularly recurrent issue with a certain contaminant in a certain product, and that's also the case for pesticide residues, then indeed we can at EU level decide to impose indeed special conditions for the import, which are linked, for instance, to setting indeed a specified frequency of controls at import. And in certain cases, we can also require that all consignments of that product exported to the EU have to be accompanied by a report of analysis and sampling, and also by a certificate. And so I gave now the most recent situation, which has been indeed the regulation, which is I referring to as 2019-1793, but which has been most recently amended in just 1 week ago by regulation 2021-608. And I here there are still some entries for indeed from food and from Turkey for pesticide residues, but as my presentation is focused on contaminants, I give here the entries which are still there for indeed contaminants in certain foods. So we have still an entry from increased frequency of controls of aflatoxins in hazelnuts and derived products, but where we can see that there the situation has over the years significantly improved, because we have indeed in the past also required a certification, but we could see that in the past year the situation has improved a lot, and so we have alleviated the controls, and indeed with a low frequency of controls at import of 5%. We have still the issue of indeed cyanide, hydrocyanic acid, or cyanide in apricot kernels, and also for indeed some commodities we are requiring a certification from competent authorities from Turkey before export to the EU. And also there is indeed an increased frequency of controls at the EU border, and that's already since many years for aflatoxins in figs and derived products, and the import control frequency is still at 20%. and also aflatoxins in pistachios and derived products, also because of the continuing problems with the presence of aflatoxins in these products. The import control frequency is still at 50%. So this is a flavor of indeed what we are doing in the EU as regards to ensure indeed the quality and the safety of the products which are placed on the EU market. And in my presentation, I focused on the contaminants, but of course there are a lot of other aspects. And I also focused on indeed issues in relation with the trade between Turkey and the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear friends, for this very clear and informative presentation. As far as we have understood, aflatoxins, amongst other contaminants, aflatoxins, in particularly in dried foods, is the biggest problem according to the Rapid Alert notifications. And I'm sure the authorities will take up the necessary measures to improve the situation in the coming days. And as far as I can see, we have only one question which has not been replied yet. I think this is for Mr. Van der Vliet. It is in Turkish. I will read in Turkish so that you can have the translation. Bu programda Mehmet Sabit Ceylan sormuş. Bu programda değer zinciri oluşturmak için EU alıcılar ve satıcıların buluşması ve izlenebilir bir gıda kalite zinciri oluşması için bir kademe var mı? Burada önemli olan ürünlerin satışında ulaşılabilirlik ve pozitif ayrışabilmedir. Bununla ilgili herhangi bir hazırlık mevcut mudur? This is about bringing together the EU and Turkish sellers and buyers. Mr. Van der Vliet.
Yes, thank you for the question. If I understood it correctly, is there a plan to bring food and agri traders from both sides together, or in terms of, I'm thinking along the lines of matchmaking or trade fairs, and yeah, so we can really exchange and create new business links. Well, in the past, I've you know, when we could still travel, we went to trade fairs a lot. The European Union has organized quite a lot of trade missions in the past. I joined Mr. Hogan, the commissioner, then on his tours. The Gulf Food in Dubai is still a big meeting point where Europe and the countries of the Middle East and Asia meet. So I really hope that can restart again. And then also in Istanbul, many of the food ingredients trade fairs are great occasions to meet each other. Likewise, in Europe we have Anuga and Sial, the big shows. Yeah, I mean, we all long for a restart of traveling, and then we can really work on that. So I think for the time being, we all focus on the existing trade relations and business partners that we have. That works pretty fine. That's what I'm currently still buying and receiving the goods that we bought from Turkey. So we do carry on, but yeah, we need to restart as soon as possible to increase the trade and then the sustainability aspects of it. Yeah, that is also an ongoing discussion between buyers and sellers, and we have to meet the standards on both sides, quality standards. And I think, yeah, as you mentioned, that this is a process that is ongoing. So yeah, I look forward to really meet up and fly to Istanbul as soon as possible.
Yes, I think your future partners are also looking forward to having you here in Turkey. And as far as I can see, let's check. Okay, there is another question we have just received. I think this is addressed to France. How will Turkish hazelnuts and dried fruits export to the EU be affected regarding to the farm to fork strategy and new circular economy? dear France.
Well, I would expect that there is no effect on that, because indeed I think the nuts can be indeed continue to be imported. They have to comply with the maximum levels. I don't see really that the farm to fork strategy would indeed affect it. Of course, one aspect could be that we are indeed going for more plant-based diets, where indeed the nuts have indeed an important aspect, and there are also health benefits related to the consumption of nuts. So indeed we might see indeed an increased consumption of nuts into this overall I would say drive towards more maybe plant-based diets, but otherwise I would not see an immediate effect on the trade. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I don't see any further questions, so we have come to the end of our session. Now we will have lunch break until 1:30 Central European Time, 2:30 Turkish time, and the second session of today will start afterwards, after lunch, which is about EU and Turkey rural development policy and circular economy. Just a second. I have just received another question. How the startups or entrepreneurs can be involved in this program? Is there a step-by-step guidance or suggested web links? I think this is for Barbaros Bey.
Yes, I'm happy to type the link there, but if you go to AGRI-FOOD's website, all our programs, all our activities are publicly available. And if you would like to develop maybe more tailored programs, tailored activities, we can certainly discuss one-to-one and build those programs together as well.
Thanks a lot. Now I am closing the session. As Franz just said during his presentation, prevention is always better than curing. So take care of yourself and stay healthy, and stay with us for the next sessions. Bye-bye. Have a good day to all. And thanks to all participants and all speakers.
Thank you very much. Have a good session.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the invite.